All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into the Startup Owner's Manual.
Oh, yeah.
This book is like the ultimate guide for anyone who's ever dreamed of launching their own startup.
It's like the Bible for entrepreneurs.
It is.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, it can be a bit dense at times.
It is.
So we're here to break it down, make it digestible, and pull out those golden nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah, and share some stories,
Exactly.
Really bring it to life.
And trust me, there are some surprising insights in here that might just make you rethink how startups actually work.
Yeah, like you think you know, but then
You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to unlearn some things and then relearn
That's
the
right.
right way to do it.
So to kick things off, maybe you could set the stage for us. Like, what's the core philosophy of this book?
Well, at its heart, the book argues that startups are not just smaller versions of big companies.
Okay, so you can't just shrink down a corporate strategy and expect it to work for a startup.
Right. Like they're fundamentally different beasts. They need a whole different playbook.
So why is that? Why can't you just, like, miniaturize a corporate strategy?
Well, think of it this way. You wouldn't use a city map to navigate a jungle, right?
Yeah.
The terrain is different, the dangers are different, the survival skills are different.
Right.
And the same goes for startups.
Okay, I'm starting to see the analogy.
Yeah.
So applying those traditional corporate methods to a startup, it's like using the wrong map.
Exactly.
You're setting yourself up for failure.
We'll end up lost, heading straight for trouble.
And speaking of trouble, the book uses a pretty dramatic example, Webvan.
Oh, yeah. Webvan, classic example.
They raised like $800 million,
Yeah.
aimed to revolutionize grocery shopping, and then
And then crashed and burned.
spectacular.
Yeah, spectacularly.
What happened there?
They made the classic startup mistake of scaling up way too fast.
They got ahead of themselves.
Yeah, they were so focused on growth that they expanded based on assumptions.
Not facts.
Not facts, right? And those assumptions turned out to be way off.
So their massive infrastructure became a liability instead of an asset.
Exactly. They built this huge, expensive machine before they even proved that there was real demand.
Ouch.
And that, my friend, is a recipe for disaster in the startup world.
Yeah, that's a tough lesson to learn the hard way.
It is.
So how do we avoid falling into that same trap?
Well, that's where the Startup Owner's Manual comes in, right?
Right.
It introduces this concept called customer development.
Customer development, okay.
Which is all about turning those risky assumptions into cold, hard facts.
Okay, so how do we do that?
By getting out of the building.
Get out of the building. I love that.
Right.
It's a good reminder that startups, it's not just about like sitting in your office and brainstorming.
It's about action.
It's about getting out there.
Yeah, talking to real customers.
Exactly. So whether you're building software, designing a product, or offering a service, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The key is to interact with potential customers, validate your ideas, and get real-world feedback.
Instead of relying on guesswork or market research reports, yeah.
Yeah, those can only tell you so much.
Exactly.
And this applies throughout the entire startup journey, not just at the beginning, right?
You got it.
So it's an ongoing loop.
Continuous learning and refinement.
Adapting on the fly.
Right.
Versus sticking to a rigid plan.
You got it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the book introduces a tool to help visualize and manage this whole process, the business model canvas.
Yes, the canvas.
Tell me more about this canvas. What is it?
Think of it as a dynamic scorecard for your startup. It visually maps out all the key elements, your value proposition, your customer segments, revenue streams.
Key partnerships, all of that.
All of that, yeah.
So it's like a blueprint.
It's more than a blueprint.
But more interactive.
More interactive, yeah, much more.
So how is it more than a blueprint?
Well, each element on the canvas, it's not a static component. It's a hypothesis that needs to be tested. So it's almost like conducting a scientific experiment, but for your business.
I like that.
Right.
So you start with assumptions, test them rigorously, and then you pivot or proceed based on the data.
Exactly.
So it's a living document. It evolves as your startup evolves.
It does. It does.
Fascinating.
And building on this idea, the book recognizes that not all startups are created equal.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So it introduces 4 distinct market types, each with its own unique challenges and opportunities.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's break down these market types. I
Okay.
imagine the first one is the most straightforward, the existing market.
That's right.
This is where you're entering a market that's already established, with customers actively buying similar products or services.
Yeah, think Uber, Airbnb.
They entered existing markets,
Right.
but disrupted them with their innovative business models.
Exactly.
So in this scenario, the key is to find a way to stand out from the crowd.
You need a compelling value proposition, yeah.
You got to offer something truly unique and desirable. All right, what about the next type of market?
That would be the resegmented market.
Resegmented market, okay.
This is where you're targeting a specific niche.
The smaller ponds.
So smaller pond, exactly.
Where you can be a bigger fish.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
So instead of going head-to-head with the big players, you're focusing on an underserved segment within an existing market.
Makes sense.
A great example is Southwest Airlines.
Oh, yeah. Southwest.
They entered the very mature airline market, dominated by giants like American and United.
But they focused on a specific niche.
Low-cost, point-to-point flights.
And they built a hugely successful business.
They did.
By doing so.
Yep.
Okay, that's a great example.
Good one.
Hit me with the next market type.
All right, this is where things get really exciting, the new market.
New market.
Here, you're creating an entirely new market where customers don't even have existing solutions for their problems.
Wow. That sounds both exhilarating and terrifying.
It is, it is.
Any examples come to mind?
Yeah. Think about the early days of the internet or the smartphone.
Oh, okay.
Companies like Google and Apple, they created entirely new markets that simply didn't exist before.
They have to educate customers.
Educate customers, convince them to adopt a completely new way of doing things.
That takes vision.
Vision and a lot of risk tolerance.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a high-risk, high-reward proposition.
You're betting on the future.
Betting on the future, hoping customers will embrace your vision.
All right, last but not least, what about the clone market?
Ah, the clone market.
What's that all about?
This is where you're taking a proven business model from another country or market and adapting it to your own.
So it's like taking a successful recipe and tweaking it to suit a different palate.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that analogy.
A good example is Baidu.
Baidu, okay.
They essentially cloned Google's search engine model, but tailored it for the Chinese market.
Interesting.
They understood that Chinese users had different needs and preferences
Than their American counterparts.
Yeah.
And they built a successful business by catering to those specific needs.
Exactly. So it's not just about copying blindly.
It's about understanding the nuances.
The nuances,
of
yeah.
the different market.
Right.
And adapting accordingly.
You got it.
Okay, and I imagine understanding your market type is crucial for your entire approach.
It is. It dictates everything. Your sales strategy, your growth curve, your customer acquisition costs.
It all flows from that.
It all flows from there.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a specific type of customer that the book really highlights. Early evangelists.
Ah, yes, the early evangelists.
What makes these early adopters so special?
They're your startup's biggest fans.
They are.
They're the ones who are willing to buy your early, often unfinished products.
Because they believe in the vision.
Because they believe in the vision.
They see the potential.
They see the potential, yeah.
So they're not just buying a product, they're buying into an idea.
Buying into the future you're building.
Exactly.
They're taking a leap of faith.
Because they genuinely believe that your product can solve a problem for them.
They're willing to overlook the rough edges, the bugs.
Yeah, because they see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
So finding these early evangelists, I imagine that's pretty critical for any startup.
It's absolutely essential.
They're the ones who give you valuable feedback.
Early feedback.
In those early stages.
Help you refine your product.
Help spread the word.
Yeah, they're your early champions.
They can make or break your startup.
They can.
Okay, so where do you find these elusive early evangelists?
Well, it depends.
On your specific product and market.
On your product and market, yeah.
But are there any general principles we can apply?
Think about who would benefit the most from your solution.
Okay.
Who are the people experiencing the problem you're trying to solve most acutely?
The ones who feel the pain.
Yeah, the ones who feel the pain. And who are the thought leaders in your space?
The influencers.
The influencers, yeah.
Okay, so identify the people who have the most to gain.
Most to gain, exactly.
From your product.
Right.
And are most likely to see its value right away.
To see the value, yeah.
Makes sense.
And once you find them, the key is to build relationships.
Listen to their feedback.
Listen to their feedback.
Involve them in your development process.
Involve them as much as possible.
And the book shares a really cool example of this with 𝐻𝐵, a CRM software company.
Oh, yeah. 𝐻𝐵, great example.
Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So they found their first early evangelist at Schwab. Mm-hmm. She was a VP of database marketing.
Okay.
And she was incredibly generous with her time and feedback.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, she even introduced them to other potential customers.
So one key early evangelist opened the door to a whole network.
A whole network, exactly.
That's powerful.
It is.
Talk about a valuable asset.
Yeah.
But it gets even more interesting.
It does.
Tell me more.
So through her feedback, Epiphany realized that their product was missing a crucial feature.
What was it missing?
A feature called householding.
Householding. What's that?
So this feature recognizes that multiple people at the same address might be making investment decisions together. They were missing a key piece of the puzzle.
That would have prevented those customers from buying, no matter how great the rest of the product was.
Exactly.
Wow. And they wouldn't have discovered this without that early evangelist's insights.
Right.
That's a powerful lesson.
It is.
Get your product into the hands of real customers as early as possible.
As early as possible, yes.
And be open to their feedback, even if it means going back to the drawing board.
Absolutely.
This is gold.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about validating your ideas, getting out of the building, finding those early evangelists.
Right.
But let's talk about metrics.
Metrics.
This is where things get real.
They do.
What are some of the metrics that matter, as the book calls them?
Well, traditional business metrics like P&Ls and balance sheets, they're just not that helpful for early-stage startups.
Why not?
They're designed for established businesses with proven models.
Focused on execution?
Yeah, execute.
Whereas startups are still in the search phase,
Still searching, yeah.
trying to find a repeatable and scalable model.
Exactly.
So they need different metrics.
Different metrics.
Metrics that track their progress in turning those assumptions into facts.
You got it.
Okay, so give me some examples of these startup-specific metrics.
All right, think about things like activation rate.
Activation rate, okay.
How many people who visit your website actually sign up?
Engage with your product.
Yeah, engage, or customer acquisition costs.
Customer acquisition costs, right?
How much does it cost you to acquire each new customer?
Makes sense.
And then there's customer lifetime value.
Customer lifetime value, okay.
How much revenue do you generate from each customer over their entire relationship with your company?
So we're measuring the things that directly impact our ability to find a sustainable business model.
That's it.
We're tracking our progress in validating those key hypotheses.
Key hypotheses, yeah.
And identifying areas where we need to iterate or pivot.
Yeah.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense.
It is. It is.
So for our listeners out there, if you were running a startup, what would be the most important metrics to track?
Well, it depends.
Of course, on your specific business model.
On your business model, yeah.
But are there any general guidelines?
The key is to focus on the metrics that give you the most valuable insights.
Into your customer behavior?
Your customer behavior, yeah.
And your progress in finding a repeatable and scalable model.
Exactly.
Don't get bogged down in vanity metrics.
Vanity metrics.
The ones that don't actually tell you anything meaningful.
Right, right.
So it's about choosing the right metrics for your specific goal.
For your goals, yeah.
That help you make informed decisions.
Informed decisions, absolutely.
And the Startup Owner's Manual gives us a ton of guidance on how to do just that.
It does.
But you know what else the book stresses?
What's that?
Founder passion.
Ah, yes. Founder passion.
And I remember that quote, startup people are different.
They think different.
They think different, yeah.
It's true.
It's not just about having a great idea.
It's not enough.
It's about having the drive and determination to see it through.
The grit.
The grit.
To overcome all those obstacles.
Yeah, the startup journey is not for the faint of heart.
It's not.
It's a 247 obsession.
It is.
It takes a certain mindset.
What does?
You have to be all in.
All in, yeah. Welcome back to our deep dive, into the Startup Owner's Manual. One of the things that really struck me was how the book emphasizes matching your approach to your market type. It's not one size fits all, is it?
Yeah, it's like they say use the right tool for the job. You wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a light bulb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the same principle applies to startup strategies. If you're entering an existing market, you need a different game plan than if you're, creating a brand new one.
Let's talk more about that. The book really dives deep into the customer validation stage. What exactly does that entail?
Customer validation, that's where you put all those assumptions to the test. It's about moving beyond opinions and theories and actually getting real customer orders or commitments. Like, are people actually willing to put their money where their mouth is?
So how do you go about doing that?
It's all about test selling. Instead of building a full-blown sales force right off the bat, you create what the book calls a sales roadmap.
Okay, a sales roadmap.
Yeah, it outlines how you're going to reach potential customers, what your sales process will look like, how you'll track your progress.
And who's responsible for leading this charge?
The founders. No question about it.
Really?
Yeah, it's absolutely crucial that the founders are the ones driving this process. They need to be out there, talking to customers, hearing that feedback firsthand.
Makes sense.
And then making decisions about pivoting or adjusting based on what they learn.
I can see why that would be so important.
They're
the ones with the most skin in the game.
Exactly. No one else is going to have that same level of passion and commitment.
Right.
They need to validate those assumptions against real customer feedback and be willing to make those tough decisions.
And this brings us back to that theme we touched on earlier, founder passion. It's something the book really hammers home, doesn't it? It does. That quote, startup people are different. They think different, really resonated with me. There's a certain mindset that's required, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Building a successful startup takes an incredible amount of dedication, resilience, and just plain grit. It's not a 9-to-5 job. You know,
it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You have to be all in.
So it's not just about having a great idea. It's about having that drive, that determination.
The hustle.
The hustle.
To see it through no matter what.
No matter what obstacles you encounter along the way.
Exactly. And that's why the book emphasizes building a team of passionate individuals who are all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, all aligned.
Aligned, yeah.
Around a shared vision.
A shared vision.
Yeah.
Speaking of vision, let's talk about that pivot or proceed decision. This feels like a make or break moment for a lot of startups.
It does. How do you know when it's time to pivot?
That's where those metrics that matter come into play. You're looking for evidence that you've found a repeatable and scalable business model. Are you acquiring customers at a reasonable cost? Are they sticking around? Are they generating revenue? Are you seeing signs of growth?
So you're looking at the data.
Looking at the data.
Being honest with yourself.
Honest with yourself, yeah.
About whether your current approach is working. Even if it means letting go of your initial assumptions.
It's hard, but sometimes you got to do it.
And if it's not working, don't be afraid to make a change.
Don't be afraid. The ability to pivot is one of the biggest advantages startups have over those larger companies.
But pivoting doesn't mean giving up on your overall vision.
Yeah,
right?
Not at all. It
Yeah.
simply means adapting your approach based on what you've learned.
Okay.
Sometimes you got to adjust your sails to catch the right wind.
I love that analogy. Okay. I'm starting to get a real feel for this customer development philosophy. It's about constant experimentation, learning, adaptation, almost like a scientific process.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about validating your product. It's about validating that entire business model. You need to test your pricing, your sales channels, your marketing messages, everything.
Leave no stone unturned.
Exactly. Leave no stone unturned.
The book actually outlines some pretty specific tactics for testing different aspects of your business model, right? What are some of the key takeaways in that area?
It does. It goes into a lot of detail about customer acquisition strategies, customer retention techniques, even how to optimize your website for conversions.
Okay, let's break those down a bit.
Yeah.
What are some of the highlights when it comes to customer acquisition?
Well, the book really stresses understanding your customer segments inside and out, then targeting your marketing efforts accordingly. It also talks about the power of earned media.
Earned media.
Yeah, like generating positive press coverage and word-of-mouth marketing.
You're building buzz.
Building buzz, yeah.
Getting people talking organically. Without just relying on paid advertising.
Yeah, right. Paid advertising can be effective too.
Okay.
But the book cautions against spending too much money on it until you've validated your core business model.
Makes sense. Don't want to pour money into a leaky bucket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to customer retention, the book really stresses building strong relationships with your customers.
Providing exceptional service.
Providing exceptional service.
That sounds like solid advice for any business.
It is. Not just startups.
But it's especially critical for startups because they're often competing against those established players.
Right.
With deep pockets and loyal customer bases. You have to fight for every customer.
So give people a compelling reason to choose you.
Compelling reason.
And to stick with you for the long haul?
For the long haul. And the book provides a ton of practical tips for doing that.
Like what?
Building a strong online community. Offering personalized support. Proactively engaging with your customers to get feedback and address their concerns. Okay, I'm really starting to see how all these pieces fit together. You're constantly learning, adapting, refining your approach based on what you're discovering from the market and from your customers.
That's it.
It's a constant evolution.
Constant evolution, yeah.
And the book gives you the framework.
Framework and the tools.
To do that effectively.
To do it effectively, yeah.
It encourages you to think like a scientist.
Like a scientist.
Constantly testing your hypotheses.
Iterating based on the results.
Now, speaking of scientific thinking, the book also gets into some pretty technical details about optimizing your website for conversions.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the key insights there?
It talks about the importance of A/B testing.
A/B testing.
Which is essentially comparing two different versions of a web page to see which one performs better.
So you're running a controlled experiment.
Controlled experiment, yeah.
On your website.
On your website, exactly.
To see what resonates most with your visitors.
What resonates, yeah. You're constantly tweaking and refining your website based on what you're learning about their behavior.
And the book gives us specific tips.
Specific tips, yeah.
On things like headlines.
Headlines, calls to action.
Color schemes even.
Even color schemes, yeah. It's a deep dive into building that successful online presence.
It is. And while the book is primarily focused on web and mobile startups,
yeah,
a lot of those principles and tactics.
A lot of them, yeah.
Apply to any type of startup.
Any type of startup.
That's great. So our listeners are getting a ton of value.
Yeah.
Even if they're not building a tech company.
Absolutely. The book is packed with timeless wisdom about entrepreneurship, innovation, and, customer centricity.
It is. But you know what else it dives into?
What's that?
That business model canvas that we touched on earlier.
Oh, yeah, the canvas.
It provides a ton of guidance on how to use that canvas effectively to guide your startup journey.
The canvas is so important.
It sounds like it's a really powerful tool.
It is. It helps you visualize all the moving parts of your business and how they work together to create value for your customers.
Okay, we're going to explore that in more detail.
In the next part.
In the next part of our deep dive.
We'll talk about how to use it to your advantage.
I can't wait. We'll be right back to unpack that and more from the Startup Owner's Manual. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of the Startup Owner's Manual, and I'm really excited to dig deeper into this business model canvas.
Yeah, the canvas.
We've talked a lot about testing, adapting, validating your business model.
Right.
But this canvas seems like the framework that brings it all together.
It's like the central nervous system of your startup.
Ooh, I like that.
It's a visual map that helps you understand all the interconnected pieces of your business.
Okay.
And how they all work together to deliver value to your customers.
It sounds like a really powerful tool for making sure everyone's on the same page.
It is.
Working towards the same goals.
Yeah, and the book breaks down each element of the canvas in detail.
Okay.
It gives you a roadmap for testing and validating each hypothesis.
So let's walk through some of those key elements. Starting with, I'm guessing, the value proposition.
It's a value proposition, yeah.
What makes your product or service stand out?
Why should customers care?
Exactly.
Right. It's about clearly articulating the problem you're solving.
And how your solution is better than anything else that's out there.
Better than the competition.
You got it.
Yeah.
So it's not just about listing features and benefits.
Right.
It's about understanding that core need you're fulfilling.
And why your approach is unique.
And the book stresses the importance of testing your value proposition.
Yeah, with real customers.
With real customers to make sure it actually resonates.
Makes them want to buy.
Makes sense.
Okay.
What's next on the canvas?
Customer segments.
Customer segments.
Who are you targeting?
Who are you going after with your product or service?
Exactly. And this is where understanding your market type comes into play.
Right.
Are you going after a mass market? A niche segment? Or are you trying to create a whole new market?
Create a whole new market.
Right. And the book gives you guidance on how to identify and analyze your target customer groups.
Okay.
Understand their needs and motivations. Tailor your marketing efforts to reach them.
Okay, I see how that fits in. Now, what about the financial side of things? I imagine that's where the revenue streams section comes in.
Revenue streams, that's right. This is where you map out how you're actually going to make money.
Okay.
Are you selling products, offering subscriptions, using a freemium model?
And this is another area where testing and validation are crucial.
Absolutely. You got to make sure your pricing model is viable,
Right.
that customers are actually willing to pay for what you're offering.
Yeah, you don't want to price yourself out of the market.
Exactly. And the book offers a range of pricing strategies and tactics to help you find that sweet spot that maximizes revenue and profitability.
All right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the operational side of the business.
Okay.
What about the key activities and key resources sections of the canvas?
Those are both essential key activities, outlines the critical things you need to do to deliver on your value proposition.
Okay.
Things like product development, marketing, sales, customer support,
Makes sense.
And key resources identifies the essential assets you need to operate your business.
So that's things like funding,
Technology,
intellectual property,
yeah, and the right people.
the right team.
Absolutely.
So the book helps you think critically about those resources,
Yeah.
identify potential dependency, and develop strategies for acquiring or accessing what you need to make your startup a reality.
You got it. It's like a checklist
A checklist.
to make sure you have everything in place before you hit the ground running.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Now, once you have those resources in place,
Yeah.
you need to figure out how to reach your customers.
Reach those customers.
That's where the channel section comes in.
Channels.
So are you selling online through retail stores
Online retail?
or using a combination of channels?
Multi-channel approach.
And again, testing and validation are key here.
You got to make sure you're using the most effective channels
Right.
to reach your target audience where they are.
You don't want to be shouting into the void.
Exactly. And the book provides a lot of guidance on evaluating different channel options,
Okay.
understanding their costs and benefits,
Building multi-channel strategy.
a multi-channel strategy that maximizes your reach and your impact.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the customer relationships section of the canvas.
Customer relationship.
We talked about early evangelists earlier,
Yeah,
but this section is about managing relationships with all of your customers, right?
it is. This
Yeah.
is where you map out how you're going to retain and grow your customer base over the long term.
And the book emphasizes building strong customer relationships throughout the entire customer lifecycle.
The entire life cycle, yeah.
It's about going beyond simple transactions,
Right.
building genuine connections,
Genuine connection.
understanding their needs,
Providing exceptional service.
making them feel valued.
Valued and appreciated.
And that's something that's important for any business,
Any business.
regardless of its size or industry.
You're right. Building strong customer relationships is the foundation of any successful business.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground with the business model canvas.
We have.
It seems like a really valuable tool
It is.
for mapping out your startup strategy.
Absolutely.
Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about financials. I know the book has some interesting insights
It does.
about how startups should approach financial modeling.
It's really important to remember that startups aren't just smaller versions of established businesses.
Okay,
Their financial projections and priorities are going to look different.
so what should startups focus on when it comes to financials?
Instead of fixating on traditional metrics like profitability and return on investment,
Okay.
startups need to focus on tracking their progress and turning those initial guesses into validated facts.
Okay.
They need to identify those key levers that drive their business model.
Give me some examples of those key levers.
Things like customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value conversion rates.
Okay.
These metrics give you real insights into the health of your business model.
And they highlight areas where you need to focus your efforts.
Exactly. So you're measuring what truly matters for early stage growth
Okay.
and using those insights to make smart decisions about scaling your operations.
So it's not about creating a rigid financial plan.
No,
It's about having a flexible model that evolves as your startup grows and learns.
you got it. The book also emphasizes regularly reviewing and revising your financial projections
Okay?
based on real-world data and customer feedback.
You have to be willing to adapt.
Adapt and adjust as you go.
It sounds like the Startup Owner's Manual provides a really comprehensive framework
It does.
for navigating the often turbulent waters of the startup world.
Turbulent waters. Yeah.
From validating your business model to building a strong financial foundation, it covers a lot of ground.
It's a must-read for anyone who's serious about building a successful startup.
It is full of valuable insights, tactics,
Yeah.
real-world examples
Real-world examples.
that can help you avoid those common pitfalls and chart a course for sustainable growth.
Sustainable growth. That's the key.
Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive into the Startup Owner's Manual today.
We have
We've covered the core principles of the customer development process,
customer development.
explored the importance of finding those early evangelists,
Early evangelists.
and delved into the practical aspects of testing, iterating, and building that solid financial foundation for your startup.
It's been a great discussion.
It has.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners have walked away with some valuable insights,
Me too.
maybe even some inspiration to apply these principles to their own ventures.
That's inspiration. Yeah.
Building a successful startup is a journey, not a destination.
It's a jury.
It's about embracing uncertainty, being open to learning, and having the passion and resilience to overcome any challenge that comes your way.
That's what it's all about.
And who knows, maybe this deep dive has sparked an idea or rekindled the dream that you've been putting off.
A dream, yeah.
So if you're ready to take the leap, the Startup Owner's Manual is a fantastic resource to guide you on that journey.
It is.
So go out there,
Yeah.
find your early evangelists, validate your business model,
Build something amazing.
build something amazing.
Share your experience.
Share your startup experiences with us on social media.
We love hearing from you.
We do. We love hearing about your journeys.
We'll be here cheering you on every step of the way.
We will. Until next time on The Deep Dive.
See you then.